Hey everyone, it's Sean. I'm over here at Target. I don't work there, but I kind of look like I work at Target. I have this red shirt on and my blue jeans. Sometimes people actually ask me questions when I'm at Target when I wear this color. Anyhow, hey, I was looking at my comments. I had a comment from Carlos Martinez, and his question revolved around a wage issue. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I believe Carlos is located in California. Guys, I live in California. I'm a California generalist. A lot of the laws that I'm going to discuss today revolve around California. But keep in mind, though, California is one of the most employee-friendly states when you consider all the other states. And a lot of other states tend to copycat California. And California tends to copycat other states. So even if you're from another state, you own a security company or you're a private security officer in another company, just listen to more or less what I'm talking about and then do your own research within your own state. So Carlos's question revolved around several issues. It looks like he's not off of probation, off of his probationary period at his employer. His employer requires him to work 12-hour shifts. And also his employer wants him to work 7 days straight. And I think 8 days straight, 9 days straight, without a break. And in addition, he has to stay on call. So he's at his house. He really can't leave the area. He can't leave his house. I mean, maybe to run an errand or so, but he has to stay near his phone just in case his security company calls. And then he's going to have to respond to work his shift. And I don't think he's getting paid. So let's talk about his rights. Again, guys, I'm not a licensed attorney. I'm not even an attorney at all. This is not legal advice or professional advice. You guys heard me say this hundreds of times. Just don't depend on my answer that I give you. Please discuss this with a labor attorney who's licensed to perform legal services in your state. I published The Private Patrol Operator in 2018. Many of you guys on this channel have read that book already. And I was putting together my leadership and management course. This is a California only course. And I actually, I end up discussing overtime law and double time law. When do you pay an employee overtime? When do you pay an employee double time? So a lot of this information is actually fresh in my head already. So this is the way it works, guys. If you have to work 7 days in a row, on the 7th consecutive day, the first 8 hours is time and a half. After the 8th hour, you must pay your employee double time. This is on the 7th day. Now, as for a 12-hour workday, you cannot have your employee work a 12-hour workday if that 12-hour workday is a regularly assigned workday. You are able to have your employee work a regular 8-hour day. So if you assign your employee a schedule, you could do 5 days a week, 8-hour shift. And if they happen to work a 9, 10, or a 12-hour shift, well, then obviously you pay them that overtime. But you cannot regularly schedule an employee a 12-hour shift in California. Not even a 10-hour shift, 11-hour shift, certainly not a 12-hour shift. But there are some caveats here. If your employee and the employer agree to an alternative workweek agreement, that employee is able to work 10-hour shifts on a regularly scheduled shift. So you can actually assign your employee to 4 days a week, 10-hour shifts. That's perfectly fine as long as there's a written alternative workweek agreement that's signed. If you're in another state, make sure that you talk to a labor attorney and you see what type of agreement is needed. Or even if there's any agreement that's needed, if you're going to have your employee work regularly scheduled 10-hour shifts. If your employer, don't come up with this bullshit where you're working you have your employee work an 8-hour shift and it just seems like every single day you're not planning for it, but you're making them work 12 hours. So that this is consistent. Guys, that's not going to hold up well in court if you are an employer listening to this. if it appears that your employee is regularly scheduled, anywhere between your anything over 8 hours, okay, to 12 hours, you got to pay them overtime. I'm sorry, you can't even schedule them that way. If something happens, okay, they'll late call for service, that's different. Okay, they can do the 10, 11, or 12 hours. That's fine. But you cannot regularly schedule them for anything over 8 hours unless you have an alternative workweek agreement. Now, there's some caveats here. Those of you who work in the hospital industry, there's some certain language. Basically, if you're providing patient care to somebody, then you can work regularly scheduled 12-hour shifts without your employer having to pay overtime. Now, in security, the question is, are you delivering patient care when you provide security services? And my argument is yes, especially with those who are committed under a behavioral health hold in your healthcare facility. I strongly believe that by you protecting this person, you're preventing this person from hurting themselves. Maybe you have to keep them in restraints. You have to constantly keep watch of this person. That's a form of patient care, and I'm going to make that argument. Now, the hospital might make another argument, or somebody might make another argument that says, no, that's not patient care. I believe it is. And those of you who work hospital security, I know that you could find a good argument that is providing patient care. Now, if so, it's 12-hour shift. Now, the hospital that I worked at, the administration firmly believed that was not patient care, that protecting 5150s from hurting themselves was not patient care, and we immediately went from 12-hour shift to 10-hour shifts. And this is actually a pretty good hospital. They paid us for all the lost overtime, that how much we would have made if they made an alternative workweek agreement, if they actually made one up. So basically, they have to pay us the difference between what they paid us and then overtime, because we were regularly scheduled for 12-hour shifts. Administration just cleaned all this stuff up. They paid us out, and everybody was happy. Well, I wasn't too happy because I went from 12-hour shift to 10. I kind of actually like the 12-hour shift. Your work week goes by a lot faster. So that's what it is, guys. Okay, so as for Carlos having to stay on call, I'm going to make an argument that you staying on call is going to benefit the employer, because you're available whenever they call you. And this is what you have to, so you have to show that you're doing some type of work for the employer, even if you're on call. So yes, the type of work that I'm doing is I'm standing by my phone. I'm constantly monitoring my phone every half an hour or every hour. I am not able to drink any alcoholic beverages, even take any type of prescribed narcotic, because I won't be able to drive to my employer or travel safely to my employer. I can't have fun with my family, my friends. I can't go out. I can't go in areas where it's loud. So I can't go to the bar, the club. I can't go to family gatherings because it might be too loud, and I may not be able to have I may not be able to hear my phone if it goes off and my employer calls me. So for that reason, I have to stay inside of my house or in or about my house. Maybe my front yard, backyard. I can't leave to different counties, or I can't leave too far outside of my house, because if I get that phone call, I might run into traffic and I might be late to work whenever they call me. At the same time, the phone that I'm using is not my employer's phone. It's my personal phone, and I am using my personal minutes, my data usage plan to benefit the employer. So you guys, this is going to be my rationale if I want to push the issue with the local labor commission. But you have to develop your own rationale. You have to show how you're working. How are you benefiting the employer by being on call? What they're doing to Carlos is just wrong. What they're doing to you, Carlos, is this employer's taking advantage of you. Number one, he's probably, by scheduling you 12-hour shift, this employer is getting away with paying overtime. Unless they're paying you overtime, then that's a different issue. They're also taking advantage because they probably have a lot of call outs, and they're depending on you as the newbie. They're depending on you for stopping what you're doing and showing up by keeping you on call. Those are major issues. And I could almost guess this, that there's no alternative workweek agreement signed between you and your employer. I just have that strong feeling. If there is, please let me know. So let's kind of recap. I may have twisted some of the legal terms around a little bit and the language. So you can work 6 days a week. Okay, as long as it's under 8 hours, there's no overtime due. On the 7th day, your employer is obligated to pay you for the first 8 hours, time and a half. After 8 hours, it is double time. During your work week, anything over 8 hours is overtime, and anything under 12 hours is also overtime. Anything over 12 is double time. Now, unfortunately, your employer can make you work 365 days out of the year. Guys, if the employer gives you a schedule that is within the parameters of the law, you have to work it, or you could face discipline, including termination. You're an at-will employee. Now, if your employer is doing something illegal, like bypassing an alternative workweek agreement or not paying you overtime, and they're regularly scheduling you for these 12-hour shifts, 11-hour shifts, 10-hour shifts, 9-hour shifts, and they're not paying you overtime. I'm sorry, if they're regularly scheduling you those types of shifts, they need an alternative workweek agreement. Otherwise, they're not in compliance of the law, and they're not supposed to take any retaliatory action against you just because you voiced your opinion on this subject. I really think that this employer is taking care of Carlos. I don't even know if it's worth it, because if they're going to do this already, who knows what is next in the future for him. Anyhow, let me know what you guys think about this video. Did I correctly state the overtime and double time laws in your jurisdiction if you're from another state? And if you're from another state, I'd like to know, where are you located? You guys all take care and be safe.